Even when I was drinking, I didn't fall down much. I leaned on stuff a lot. Rob, you there?
Rob?
Rob?
Robert.
Lynn, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, at least we're
Just
getting
got
in.
home.
All right.
Yeah, we see you now, sort of.
Sorta.
Right.
Yeah, I need more light in front of me so you guys can get the better tones of my face.
You got tone on your face?
I can hold the tone. You want me to sing?
Engineers don't do that. We just look pasty all the time.
There's a lot of feedback there on the light from that cap there.
Yeah, there is.
You're not getting feedback from me, are you?
Yeah, light feedback.
Headlamp.
You need to wear a hat.
I'll take care of that.
Wearing a headlight, okay.
All right, let's try one more time. Hey, Rob, are you there?
Somebody's gonna have to drive over to his house.
Get Lynn to drive over. He's up.
Does he know he's on mute?
You there, Rob? You're on mute.
We'll holler at him in a minute. I'd like to see how he's doing. Need an update on Rob. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. First things first, let's go around the room and do quick introductions, who you are and what you're interested in doing. We'll start with this guy back here who's doing his homework.
This is KQ4 NBC. Scott, I'm interested in seeing what the APRS lecturer brings to the table tonight, because I have a radio that I think does that, so I'm gonna try it out.
APRS, he's the golden packet guy. You're right.
Lane Watts, KB4KHQ, and I'm interested in license testing and microcontrollers. Yay!
He's flashing around his, what is it, ES5, ES32?
ESP32.
ESP32. So.
Yep.
Bright blue display, which looks good. I'll tell you the story about the blue LEDs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm KQ4 SPA, Fernando, and interested in anything portable.
Cool.
Bob, NZ Tuesday, in the process of relocating, so I'm only operating portable QRP.
John N3ACK, I don't know what I'm interested in right now.
Have radio.
Radio.
I'm interested in Zoom right now, that's right.
Pat, N4MPC. John Cooper, KR4ALD. Thanks to some replies from, I think, a couple of folks in this room and a thread on Groups.io. I'm interested in building an antenna.
Oh, no.
We need to schedule another antenna build, but one of the principals is sort of under the weather at the moment. And so we're waiting until he can actually walk again before we crawl up the hill to build some antennas. But keep track of what you would like, because I already know we need to build two 20-meter verticals and somebody wants to build a 40 dipole. I already got that on my checklist. So let me know what you're interested in building, so I'll make sure I have the parts and time. My name is Bill, KB4KFT. I'm currently president of the club. John is the vice president. Ed, I think, is dialed in. We won't go through the whole list of people up there. Check in if you know who you are. I've got 4 announcements to make before we turn it over to Jeff, and we'll go through these pretty quickly. We've got the Georgia State Parks on the Air coming up this weekend, April the 5th. I'm sorry, Saturday only. That's where the POTA people try to get all through the state and try to get at least one person into each of the, I think it's 59 state parks, but there's also more than 100 wildlife management areas that you get into. I actually went up to Wildcat Bridge last year for this thing. I was still pretty mobile, and it was a hoot. We had people come by just wanting to know what was doing. We had a lot of people look up online and come by because they just want to see how you do a portable operation, and it ended up being a lot of fun. So if you get a chance this weekend, go to pota.app and look at their announcements and see where it's coordinated. There's also a Facebook group, Georgia State Parks on the Air, Georgia State POTA. Go look them up, and if you can find a park nearby, it's a friendly bunch of people. I promise you, you can't go wrong if you go out and spend a couple hours. Second thing on our list, the Georgia QSO party is not this weekend, but the one after. It goes on Saturday and Sunday. The Atlanta Club is going to set up again at Brook Run Park down across from the restrooms, which is the way I know to describe it, but it's at the parking lot. Saturday. The event starts Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Don't care what time it is in London. We are in the Eastern time. So it starts at 1400 and will probably run till about 6 p.m. or so, or till when people get dark and get tired and decide to go home. It also is on Sunday, starting at 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. But the Atlanta Club basically doesn't do anything on Sunday. Saturday is usually enough. Everybody's so tired they don't feel like getting out of bed at 7 a.m. on Sunday. Third thing on the list is the ARRL Ham Radio Open House, which is on the 18th. That's the next weekend. It's actually Friday, I think. ARRL is going to have guests come in and operate W4JEW, the Connecticut station, and they're trying to get as many people on the bands as possible to hunt this guy up and work him so that they don't just sit there and call CQ and nobody answers them. So they want to load the deck. Go to the ARRL webpage and look it up. That's not something I think we need to go out and plan an outing around, but yeah, it'd be nice to support them. And now we get into John's stuff. Atlanta Hamfest is coming up 1st of June. John, do you want to give us a quick rundown on the Hamfest?
Yeah, it's coming along pretty good. We're a little slow on flea market tables so far, unfortunately, so I'm having to shake the trees a little with some of these people that have not put their confirmations in yet. There'll be calls for volunteers going out shortly, so if you have an interest, hope everybody has an interest in picking something, because it takes a lot of people to put the actual event on the day of, so we'll be needing people to sign up for taking tickets, helping in the boneyard, that kind of stuff, so keep an eye out for that, and please do sign up for it. If you're not sure about something, feel free to ask a question and I'll help fill in the blanks and put you at ease as to how easy the task is. It's not difficult, so.
We've got a Hamfest planning meeting coming up.
Yeah, there's a Hamfest planning meeting next Wednesday night, so if you have a real interest in helping actually do a little more than just volunteering the day of, it's much appreciated, so you can join us. It'll be right here on the same channel you're on now. Select the link to the ARC club meeting and that'll get you to it. And that'll be next Wednesday at 7:30, I believe.
Wednesday at 7:30, okay.
Yeah.
Second thing, is Steven Slider on
No,
tonight?
He's not. He said he wouldn't be here.
Oh, okay, so, well, Jeff is here, we know. We think we have the insurance, or I should say, John thinks that he has the insurance all straightened out. He's been wrestling with this now for more than a year. So we think if we don't have access to the tower now, we will have shortly. I know Steven's got some things that he's been itching to do. Jeff, have you got anything that you need to get up on the tower to do soon?
Man, the DMR repeater just keeps on working. So no.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can go up there and keep Steven company.
Well, I think the new rules is we have to let them know 3 days ahead of time. So that would be let them know on Wednesday that somebody needs to go up on Saturday or Sunday. The rules have changed around it. It's obvious that we're being treated like a non-paying commercial company. So we've got to meet some of the requirements that commercial companies do. But since we're not paying them anything, they don't feel any need to be helpful more than.
So they're not gonna give us cards, huh? I'm still gonna need to be escorted.
Yeah, I think so. And the other issue, John can speak to this, but one of the guys mentioned that we've got a lot of equipment cluttered up there. So I think even when the first hardware checkup or repair, whatever you and Stephen do, you need to cart out everything from the room that's no longer needed as well. Get as much as you can out of it.
Yeah, we supposedly had, and I looked at, there was stuff stacked behind the cabinets on the floor, and that apparently drew their ire or whatever, so.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's probably stuck behind the racks that was mics, and it probably needs to just go.
Yeah, so when you all plan this trip up here, let us know. We'll get 3 or 4 able bodies, because that last 30 feet or so is that narrow little concrete stairway. You need some help getting stuff out of there. So let us know. We get 3 or 4 people to come and pack mule that stuff out of there. Let's get as
All right.
much as we can.
But I checked with Greg. I didn't hear back from him before I left to come here. Greg's the building administrator, and he has a physical copy of the COI, which has everything on there that needs to be on there now. So we, as of tomorrow, we should be good to schedule a trip, so.
Right. Let's do the cleanup though. I mean, it'd be better if Steve was here, because you too, but you can coordinate with Steve. Let's do the cleanup as soon as we can to show them that we're putting effort into it. There's also an issue with the antennas, but I think that's something we'll have to deal with a little bit later. And that's it.
Let's see, we did QSO party.
Yeah, Georgia QSO party is the 12th and the 13th, that Saturday and Sunday. We'll post something about it online and in groups. I wanted to hold off until I talked to John, since I'm not gonna be able to do anything with it this year other than just show up. So John's clarified what he wants to do, and I'll post that.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as far as getting the antennas in the trees, you got anybody you're gonna have do that? Cause you normally are the one that does that, putting the wires in the trees.
I don't know anybody I can reach out to. I'm only gonna be cobbled up for another 3 weeks.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, so if you
It's
can
not
hold off
rocket
3
science.
weeks, my first thing will be go shoot antennas in trees. That'd be a cool way to get back.
Only other thing is, what we discussed about the Delta thing. I don't know if you want to bring that up now. There's an opportunity for us to do a special event station at the end of the month down at the Delta Museum. This year is Delta's 100th anniversary, even though technically they weren't an airline until the following year, 2020 or 1926. Yeah. But they're celebrating it this year because they started as a crop dusting company down in Macon in 1925. So anyways, the museum's been closed for a little while as they renovated it, and it actually opens up on Monday, which was a little ahead of schedule. Because I had originally talked to her about us being down there for the opening of the museum to celebrate the centennial of Delta. But what we're gonna do is push it back to the end of the month, like the 27th, I think it is. It's a Sunday or a Monday, one of those 2 dates. They've got some special stuff going on for the museum. So keep an eye out for that if you have an interest in working, actually participating in the special event station by being down there. It's a really neat museum if you've never even heard of it. They've got in their original hangar down there, they've got this whole bang up museum that they put together. And I think they even have the last 747 that they had is also parked there. And that's one of the things that will be available on the 27th and 28th to look through. It's only available certain days of the month. But anyways, we're gonna do a special event station celebrating Delta's 100th year, and we'll do it down there at the Delta Museum down at the airport, so at their
What do you
headquarters.
do in the special events?
We set up a radio and make contacts as a special event station celebrating. We'll probably operate as, I need to put in for one of the 1 calls, so it'd be like a W4D is what I'm gonna look to see if it's available. And that makes it easier to call out, and we'll do QSL cars when we're done for it. But we're gonna log it in on the ARRL calendar so that we get some attention to it. And
Couldn't grease,
sort of like we did with WSB radio and television.
couldn't grease WD4 is a
Huh?
call. WD4 is a call.
No, I don't know.
WD4.
Not WD-40.
WD-40, yeah, WD-4.
Oh, there might be, I don't know. I'll look and see what's.
So you put up an antenna and everything?
Yeah, we put an antenna up. I gotta double check, make sure there's not gonna be any issues with that. I don't, cause that control tower and all that stuff's 10 miles away across the airport. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
called
know.
VHF, UHF.
I don't know how much of
Wouldn't hurt.
an issue we're gonna be, but I'll check with that when I.
Where's the
when I talk.
museum?
So,
Virginia
special
Avenue?
event station, you posted
Uh,
online.
I don't know. I don't remember what the street name is. I think it's on the north side of the airport.
Look for the announcement. We'll get
Well, it's up
it.
there where where the Delta campus is.
Yeah, it's where their headquarters,
Simulators
it's where their headquarters are. It's where the simulators and all that stuff is.
Yeah.
You
That's
you
all.
guys who don't know what a special event station is, you get a special call sign, it gets posted a couple places, hey, we're gonna be on the air from noon to 4 or whatever the times is. And a lot of people, since there's gonna be a special card that comes out with it, a lot of people will come honey, it's like POTA activation without the rudeness. They will actually come. They'll actually come and look you up because they want to get that card and then.
Yeah,
postage is a
it's
big
not your
deal.
standard QSL card. We do a pretty good job
Yeah,
with our QSL.
So do you have like one member, you do it for 30 minutes, another guy does it? for
Well, we
30?
could, if we need to do, if we need to stagger it like that, if not, it's just, sometimes, it's just whoever shows up, sit there as long as you want, or share the mic, or,
the ideal thing is to pair people off and one person be talking on the radio, and the other person logging, and then when the talker gets tired, the logger takes over and somebody else starts logging. That way you
yeah,
keep
just,
a assembly line.
if you get a bunch of people, then we'll have to kind of schedule it a little bit, but we could technically, we could do one band from the airport and then have other bands scheduled to be done from somebody's house if we wanted
Yeah.
to. Honestly, you could run it that way too.
As long
So
as there's a presence at the site.
the idea is to have a presence on the site, and then when everything's done, people will we'll have a special, send us a self-addressed stamped envelope, and we'll send them a QSL card.
It's a pretty cool thing. The people on the meeting right now are maybe listening to the recording later if you're new in the hobby. Usually on some weekends, there's a special event station, and the one that will be coming up, we'll be competing with the one up in Indianapolis, the Indy 500, and their call sign is what, W5IND or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'd be kind of competing with them, but I actually worked the Battleship Missouri a couple of days ago. They brought it up on a Thursday, and I actually worked the guy on the Battleship Missouri. They put a radio on the end of the thing, put an antenna on the battleship, and I don't know where it's parked, I don't remember, but it's the battleship.
Yeah, but if you want to know what, because it's like Bill said, there's always 5, 10, 20 special event stations going on in a week's time. So you can go to the ARRL site and search special event station, and they've got a whole calendar of
Yep.
ongoing calendar, like Hamfest calendar. So you can see what's going on that weekend. Some of them are simple and some of them are pretty monumental. So
But for the people that do them, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out too, and then we'll hand it over to Jeff. Nathan Wood, who is the coordinator for the 13 colonies, was so happy with the way things turned out last year. We did an outing right over here at Brook Run, and he was so happy the way it turns out. He wants to schedule us one whole day or maybe 2 days where we will be K2G, the only K2G in the state of Georgia for the 13 colonies for 1 day. So he and I will coordinate on that. Realistically, it needs to be a Saturday or a Sunday because a lot of our people still work, still have jobs, and you can't just take a day off, go play radio, because your boss, if you're sick, that's one thing. If you want to play radio. So more on that later. That's in July. That's still 3 months away.
Hey, Bill.
Anybody got any other announcements to throw out?
Just a
Yes, Lynn,
question,
go
Bill.
ahead. I knew you had one.
Well, this has to do with the upcoming QSO party. You say the 12th. If you're not going to be there when we're setting up, could you pass the filters on to John so that the filters are available?
I was going to pass them on to Ed tonight, but Ed, I think, is dialed in. I can't see the screen up there. Yes, the filters will be available, and I will be there. I'm just not going to be. I'm just not going to be able to carry boxes, and I can barely stand. I can imagine trying to throw an antenna up in a tree. That would. People should film that. It would be funny as
yeah, he's gonna be the guy with the cup and his tiki umbrella and all that.
Yeah, a white cane tapping around.
Well, if 10 or 15 is available, I can use a pusher puller and put that inverted V up.
You can argue with John on the day about what band you're going to be on. He's going to be the coordinator, not me. I'm tired of fighting that battle this year. I may just show up and sit down and just laugh at people. Or my problem is I can't just sit. I go out something like that.
I was gonna say.
I'm out there run around, and you drug me up and down the hill last time, Lynn, and my foot was really giving me problems. All right, any other announcements? Rob, are you there yet?
Wait a minute.
There's Rob.
There he is.
So how you
Alright,
doing,
yeah.
Rob? We heard you had an accident. How you doing?
I'm doing, getting to spend my time in Piedmont Hospital for the week. And, four broken, ribs.
Oh,
So they got you taped up good?
No, they don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore.
No, they said, cause, you can't breathe when they do that.
Oh, God.
I
Okay.
actually
Well, we'll
learned
see.
something about it, huh?
Well, when you get up and around, do you want to introduce tonight's speaker? That's usually your job.
No, I'll go ahead. I turn it over to you.
All right.
Uh.
So we got somebody else wandering in the building. Jeff is the administrator of the club's DMR systems, both the hardware and the software and the political stuff that goes on with DMR from time to time. He is, I would say he's an expert in the field. And that's not being facetious. He really is. So Jeff, take it away.
All right, guys. Hopefully you can see my screen here. So, yeah, thanks for inviting me. Rob invited me, but thanks for having me, guys. Many of you, probably, if not all of you, probably already know me or know of me. Jeff Hochberg, W4JEW. Been in Atlanta for, gosh, 25 years. Got my ticket in 2015. And it took me a while before I realized that my first Atlanta radio club, there was this guy named Bill, and he was really friendly and funny. And turned out years later, gosh, we bumped into each other, and it's just he got me addicted to ham radio. So 2015, my technician, 2016, general. Someday maybe I'll get my extra. But big fan of APRS. Did enough DMR to get burnt out on it. I guess my other love right now is satellite work. So I've got a couple of little portable rotators and just been really enjoying that. But most of my time spent with APRS. Bob Bruniga did hand over an event called the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet to me about 2 years before he passed away. So we can talk a little bit about what that event is, but effectively I coordinate anywhere from 14 to 16 or 17 locations along the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine. And which is 2,200 miles, I think, something like that. Sometimes we've actually extended it up into Canada. But goal is to try and get some packets up and down the length of the trail. So we talk a little bit about what APRS is. APRS in and of itself isn't really all that exciting. It's what you can do with APRS where things get a lot more interesting. We'll talk a little bit about how to get started with APRS, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. Hopefully I'll be able to address your questions, but if not, I definitely know where to send you. And know a lot of people in the APRS worlds that are a lot more well versed in it than I am. So before we get started, some of you guys may recognize this character, Craig KM6LYW. So he's a good friend of mine. He has a YouTube channel that has just grown in leaps and bounds. He's known as the DigiPi guy. So he created what's basically a bootable image for the Raspberry Pi that will take pretty much any radio that will 2 meters that you can get audio in and out of, and we'll turn it into APRS enabled device, including a full-fledged digipeater. He's extended it though, so it'll actually run like full AX25. You can run WSJTX on it, FL Digi, a few other things. And for anywhere from like $30 to $75, I guess, gosh, with tariffs and whatnot, it could be $300. But for relatively little money in the grand scheme of things, web-based interface, you can connect to it with Wi-Fi, with Bluetooth, and Craig. We asked Craig what he did to get into APRS, or what got him interested in it, and he spent a lot of his time up in the High Sierra Mountains. Specifically an area called Desolation Wilderness. So he's up over 8,000 feet, miles away from anything and anyone. Realized he had no cell signal up there, but he did discover that he was able to send text messages and emails with packet-based radio. And just so happens that his first HT had built-in APRS functionality. So he did like a real deep dive into it, and it really ended up allowing it. It was the only way that he could really keep in touch with his wife and his daughter while he was out in the wilderness. And so that was really kind of like what got him hooked on it. And Craig is probably one of the most well-versed people in APRS that's out there now. And if you guys haven't seen his YouTube channel, I really highly recommend checking it out, KM6LYW. He's also on Patreon, but he's got a group, I think it's Google Groups. I don't think he's on groups.io. I think he's on Google Groups, but he's got a Discord server and just really, really active. And DigiPi is just an absolutely phenomenal project. So let's talk a little bit about what APRS is. It is a protocol. As I said, protocols aren't really all that exciting unless you're one of the kind of more developer type, but it is based on AX.25. It was created by Bob Bruniga, WB4APR. I think back in like the early 90s, something like that. Bob actually was a professor at the United States Naval Academy, and he originally wrote it on, I think, an Apple II, and its intended purpose originally was tracking location of ships, but found that it really required very minimal bandwidth. It's really more of like a transport layer protocol, which means that you can run a lot of applications over top of it, and APRS doesn't really care. Its biggest strengths are really in terms of real-time protocol or real-time applications. So, you look at something like WinLink, which is really more of like a store and forward system that's meant for sending things like email or messaging on demand, whereas APRS is really, it's real-time. You send a message, you expect somebody on the other end to receive it right away. You can send telemetry data. A lot of folks have APRS-enabled weather stations. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But anything and everything that you could be interested in getting in real time. I think a lot of people automatically equate APRS with GPS. A lot of people will say, I use it for tracking the location of my vehicle. Bob, if he were still around, would probably smack you if he heard that, because that's not really what. Sure, APRS can be used for that, but it's effectively position tracking. If you've ever been involved with any of the local races, the Peachtree Road Race, the Publix Marathon, APRS is used very heavily. Joe Domaleski is one of the handful of people that actually runs the course, and he will actually beacon his location the entire time that he's out there. But there's roving ham stations. There's hams that are at fixed positions using APRS to keep in touch with each other, monitored from the Fulton County Emergency Services building, so we can see where everybody's at on a map in real time. And what's amazing is you get such a high concentration of people in such a small area. People don't realize how quickly the cell phone network gets jammed up. APRS keeps working. Part of the beauty of APRS too is the fact that there is no reliance on infrastructure. You can probably say the same for just about any ham radio, but in terms of like real-time application support, no reliance on infrastructure is a big part of it. And obviously all of this is available to you through ham radio. So there are a lot of folks that say APRS is dead. APRS is not dead. This actually was a screenshot that we took from an application called APRS IS32. This deck was created back in February, and there were roughly around 50,000 nodes connected at the time that I took the screenshot. This is just the United States, but if you look at the map of the whole world, it was just insane how many people were online. It's not necessarily people. There's a lot of fixed position stations that make this up as well. But over 50,000 nodes online. We guesstimated roughly around 20,000 of them are weather stations. 10,000 of them are mobile stations, and another 20,000 or so fixed stations like digipeaters or any number of different types of systems that could be beaconing information. Interestingly enough, in Europe, the density of what we were seeing, station density, was easily 3 times what we see in the United States. So APRS is used extremely heavily in Europe. Not to say that it's not used heavily here in the States, but if you did a comparison between the two, it's pretty incredible. So we talk about APRS really being in like a local communications network, right? Where as long as you're within RF, within a communication of, or reachability of another station, 2 meters, you can communicate with them. Well, every once in a while we run into some tropospheric ducting. If you're not familiar with the site, it used to be called aprs.menolink.org, but the site's since been renamed. It's vhf.dxview.org. Interestingly enough, the entire map for DXU, vhf.dxu.org is based on APRS. So the data that is used to construct this is collected from digipeters over the internet. And the guy who developed this site is just absolutely brilliant. But there is tropospheric ducting almost a little over 500 miles. So this is literally packet stations that were able to send and receive APRS packets over that much of distance. So like Louisiana up to like North Carolina, Southern Virginia. So, you talk about local, well, no infrastructure required. This were actually packets sent and received between stations along that sort of distance. Pretty incredible for 2 meters, actually. So what about when we want to extend beyond the local area? Well, we have these devices that are called digipeters, so digital repeater. And we say like, well, digital repeater, get it. So it's really designed to extend APRS coverage beyond that of a local area. We have devices, or you find devices that are called iGates. iGates are an internet gateway. So you effectively can have a digital repeater or digipeater that can expand the size of the local footprint. But if you have an iGate, which is a digipeater that's also connected to the internet, then that digipeater can extend the communications wherever the internet can take you. So we use, in APRS world, we use a pass is what it's called. And you may have seen this wide 1.1, wide 2.1, or wide 2.2. And we use that basically for controlling how APRS traffic gets forwarded from one iGate to another, one digipeater to another. And the general idea is that if we transmit a packet through a digipeater, we don't want that packet to potentially get ping-ponged around forever and ever. So all stations that are participating in an APRS network, they need to use a common path. So this wide 1.1, wide 2.1, or wide 2.2, all stations have to have that same path configured. And then what happens is you transmit an APRS packet, and the first thing that the first digipeater does is it decrements. So like wide 1.1, wide 2.2 becomes wide 1, wide 2.2, wide 1, wide 2.1, and then wide 1, wide 2 as it passes through. And then at that point, the digipeater won't continue to forward it any further. Hopefully it's made it to its intended destination by then. And when the internet is used to connect locations together, APRS has some really intelligent routing that's done through the server infrastructure that manages or is the APRS IS is what we call it. Talk about it in just a moment here, but this is effectively how we get traffic further on than just within station to station capabilities. So the APRS IS didn't take very long for APRS to make it to the internet. Again, these are really digipeters that act as a gateway between RF and IP. So there are transmit and receive iGates. There are also what we call RX or receive only iGates. Those are somebody who really just wants to receive APRS traffic and participate in sending that traffic over the internet. But there are some locations where not only will they receive traffic and forward it across the internet, but they'll receive traffic over the internet and forward it out over RF. These are ham radio nodes only. They are, effectively RF to IP gateways. And, APRS IS, you really don't even need a radio to participate in APRS. In fact, you can run APRS.FI or any number of apps on iOS devices, on APRS Droid and APRS ISMO are some applications you can run on Android. There's no shortage of applications for Windows, for Mac, for Linux, and all you need is what we call a passcode. So there's a group you can send an email to, and you get like a 5-digit number. That's basically how you authenticate. So it's your call sign plus your passcode, and you can send messages without even having a radio. So APRS.FI is a really popular site for position tracking of stations, and Hesu, the developer of APRS.FI, he grabbed some statistics for me when I was putting this presentation together. And we wanted to get an idea. So we talked about, the number of nodes that were active at that point in time when I showed you that map. But as far as like distinct call signs that were actually sending and receiving traffic, over 60,000 in a 24-hour period, over 120,000 in a 30-day period, and continues to climb from there over 30, 60, 90-day period. So again, if anybody ever tells you APRS is dead, you can just understand that they're probably had a bad experience with it, or they don't understand it. But definitely wanted to say it is not dead by any means. There is a really cool version of the APRS IS. It's run as a separate network, but it's called FireNet. I know the guy, Chris, that runs FireNet. This is effectively, so the APRS IS by itself is ham radio stations only, but they created FireNet for purposes of tracking like where fires are happening around the world. So you can go in with like an APRS enabled application that has a map, and you can see where there are fires. You can get weather reports or METAR reports. You can see where there's earthquakes that have occurred, volcanic activity. So this is effectively APRS IS with the addition of data or telemetry that comes from other internet connected services. There's instead of connecting to what is it, like rotate.aprs.net, you connect to a different host, firenet.us, and you'll get a different feed, which is effectively the FireNet feed. But they really, the real hardcore APRS guys didn't want anything other than APRS traffic on the IS. So FireNet was created for people who wanted to have a little bit more information about what's going on in the world than just what the APRS IS does. So let me stop real quick and just see if anybody has any questions. I may cover a little bit about this, but figure just stop for a moment, breathe, and see what sort of questions you guys may have.
Firenet.us?
Yes. So interestingly enough, it's kind of hard to find information about FireNet. I actually talked with the guy who runs it. There is a group on groups.io called FireNet. That's probably the best place to find information today. Otherwise, it's just knowing the URL or the host name for it and connecting to it and just kicking the tires on it a little bit. So I did a presentation at Orlando Hamtation. I helped out the Daytona Beach Amateur Radio Association. So Bob had created an event called APRS Day Out, or designed an event that could really be run by anybody. The idea is just setting up an ad hoc APRS network, no internet, no infrastructure, effectively just like an RF-based iGate or digipeater rather. And it can be really useful for simulating events, disaster response. But the Daytona Beach group wanted to have people get experience or exposure to APRS. So they set up the Day Out event down there. It was incredibly successful, and they attracted people by offering them a burger and a bottle of water. So that when it's like 90 degrees out, the bottle of water especially will get your interest. But they definitely said that they would do it again. But it was a great way for people to keep in touch with each other while they were moving around the event. They periodically beacon schedule information to help people understand, like, who was presenting at what time and what vendors were there and whatnot. It was pretty neat. APRS is excellent for weather information. So you can buy weather stations, APRS enabled weather stations from companies like Davis or Pete Brothers, Ambient Weather. There's also a number of software packages. So even if you have a weather station that is not APRS enabled, you can make it that way by connecting it to your computer and installing a piece of software like Weather Display. And then you can either connect directly to the internet, or you can connect to a radio through a serial interface, and you can share information from your weather station with people. Interestingly enough, I didn't realize this either, but the the feeds that connect together a lot of the weather stations that are run by the National Weather Service, it's all APRS packet over IP. And which is interesting that they happen to pick and they continue to use today is APRS over the internet and over private networks for exchanging weather information because it's so ideally suited for it. So weather I think is probably one of the more exciting and interesting use cases. Along those same lines, we find that because of the real-time nature of it, it's great for people who are tracking storms and for storm chasers. So obviously, you're out there chasing tornadoes. It's kind of dangerous. So they'll have somebody hams will have somebody who's at a central location and they monitor the positions of people who are out in the field tracking locations of tornadoes, and they use it just to keep in touch and make sure everybody's continuing to move around and they don't just disappear or whatnot. But it can be the difference between life and death. There's actually, if you go to this bit.ly APRS storm chasers, that's actually a link to a video on YouTube on somebody who does exactly this. Is they use APRS with their friends and they go out and they think they're in Oklahoma and they use APRS to track each other while they're out doing tornado chasing. It's pretty cool. We talk about the lack of need of infrastructure. So some of you guys may have remembered back in March 2020, downtown Nashville got hit with a tornado, and it did some serious damage to cellular infrastructure. It hit the Batman building, formerly the Bell South building downtown. Even took out the FirstNet network. So that's the cellular network that's reserved for emergency responders. So not only was the regular cellular network down, but FirstNet was down too. And guess who was able to keep on working? Well, hams were able to keep on going, and APRS was pivotal in terms of being able to support people getting messages to and from loved ones, and being able to exchange messaging between emergency response groups. Really, really powerful. And along those lines, APRS is great for search and rescue operations because, again, it's it is real time, very low bandwidth requirements, low power requirements, so people can be out for very extended periods of time, providing GPS position information in real time. If you've never been part of a search and rescue operation or you've never seen one happen, they'll lay a grid system out on across whatever area it is that they're tracking, and move from grid square to grid square, and checking the area for whoever it is that they're out there looking for, and they know what areas they've already checked versus what's remaining. And again, this is kind of similar to storm chasing, where you've got somebody in a central location and they're monitoring the folks that are out in the field. There is a super cool company called StarTrack Limited out of New Zealand. I say company, but really it's actually a group of hams that developed an application. It is a commercial class search and rescue application based on APRS. It can run in a packet mode for commercial organizations too that are not hams. As long as you have a ham radio license, you can download it for free and run it in what they call ham mode. Or if you're a search and rescue team, you can get licensing for it and run it in full search and rescue mode. But it is a full-fledged enterprise class search and rescue, and you could use it for messaging, right? You don't necessarily need to use it for search and rescue operations. I think it's worth downloading it and playing with it, but be ready for some pretty serious configuration. It's not for the faint of heart. Bots. So there are lots and lots of bots available that you can query or send messages to. N server is one that the APRS Foundation took over running, effectively using APRS for chat messaging. AP Spot, where people can use that to self-spot, whether they're working like POTA or SOTA events. CQ server is very similar to N server. It kind of predated N server, but again, there's different chat rooms. You go in, you can join a chat room, you can talk with other people, you send a message to N server or CQ server, and anybody else who's a member of the same group receives that message. DAGA is for soda spotting. MPAD, you can do things, you can send a zip code or coordinates and get weather information, information on satellites that are going to be passing over. You can get information about what repeaters are close to you. I used another one, which I think is just repeat, REPAT. And I was up in Smoky Mountain National Park or just outside of it. Had no idea of what repeaters were around in the area. Sent a message to repeat, and within a couple of seconds, I had a list of like 8 or 10 repeaters with call sign, transmit, receive frequency, split, tone, and then what the distance was of those repeaters to my location. So it was pretty cool. There are also call sign lookups. You could send a message to who-is. You can send a message to WhatsApp. There's actually APRS to WhatsApp gateway. There are lots and lots of them. If you go to, there's a website called how.aprs.works. And the guy who wrote Direwolf, John Langner, wrote a whole article there on internet connected devices. And so it's all about the different bots that are available. He lists like 30 or 40 of them. I didn't have enough room on the slide to cover all of them, but you can see that link down below, how.aprs.works/APRS information services. Talked a little bit about earlier, so I worked the Peachtree Road Race probably 5 or 6 years, not consecutively, but as I mentioned, Joe Domolewski is someone who actively beacons his location, but again, fixed positions all over the course. It is used a lot for emergency response communications, and it's really, really helpful when the cellular network is jammed up and you can't make calls. You can't even get a text message out, but you can get a message out through APRS. It works great. HABs, or high altitude balloons. So you can see kind of down here in the bottom center, a relatively inexpensive device. It's not much bigger than a quarter. These things are about $20 or $30, so they're pretty much considered disposable. But they'll put these on a high altitude balloon and launch these balloons either to just go grab weather information, or sometimes they try and get the balloon around the world. I forgot the guy's name, but I think there was a guy who presented to Atlanta Radio Club, maybe 8-10 years ago, on ham radio, using ham radio with balloons, and I'm pretty sure that he was using APRS with that. But pretty cool stuff. And then there's this one, which is very near and dear to my heart, which is the Golden Packet, or the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet. So what is the Golden Packet? Well, that's the packet that makes it the entire length of the trail. That's really what we're trying to do, is 16 locations, all acting as digipeaters. So starting in Georgia or up to Maine, or if you ask the guys up in north, they'll say that it starts in Maine and goes down to Georgia. So we arm wrestle over it. But 2,200 miles. Golden Packet was actually a proof of concept. So Bob had this dream of something called BearNet, and I forget what the Bear stands for, or BearNet stands for off the top of my head. But Bob had this idea for a 220 backbone that would run up and down the length of the trail. And then there would be branches off of the 220 network that would go to 14439. And the idea is that, anybody who is working the trail, need of emergency assistance, would be able to send a message and get to somebody who could come and help them. And GPS is just very a major. It's on every radio effectively that's APRS enabled out of the box. And then that way, it's really easy for an emergency responder to locate somebody if they're in need of assistance. So the Golden Packet was basically a will BearNet work type thing that Bob had created. And the first year that it was held was in 2009. I got involved with it, I want to say like around 2018, 2019, sometime around then, and just like fell in love with it. In fact, I think I had read about it in QST magazine, and then I called the guys that were running the Mount Oglethorpe, where Springer location, and I think it was like a day or two before the event, and I asked them if I could come out, and they said yes, and then before I knew it, I was hooked on it, and I've been involved with it every year since. Has the Golden Packet been successful? Yes, absolutely it has. Unfortunately, it has not been the past 3 years, 4 years, unfortunately. It's not a technology issue, it's always a people issue. Getting people to follow instructions across 16 locations can be a little bit challenging sometimes. And so, you get somebody that shows up 2 or 3 hours late. You get somebody who turns on their radio and they're operating at 9600 while everybody's operating at 1200. That can be a bit of a problem. So, but when it does work, it's incredibly rewarding. Hang on just for 1 second, guys. I will be right back.
He's wandering around. I actually brought up the application and looked him up. And it has the statistics on his iPhone on here. Apparently he's at 90% battery.
So much for privacy.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, you gotta admit.
All right, I'm back. Unfortunately, I got this thing going on where my eyes just really start burning big time, and I've got something that I put in them to keep that from happening. So if you're noticing my eye was closing up, that was why. All right. So so Golden Packet's a lot of fun. It was always the third Saturday in July, and the closest location we were operating it at Mount Oglethorpe in Jasper, but we've since moved back to the original Springer Mountain location. Springer Mountain is currently the southern terminus for the Appalachian Trail, but Mount Oglethorpe historically was the original southern terminus. If it's something that's of interest to you, you can go to @goldenpacket.net. We have the sign up page up, and we have a group on groups.io. You can follow along with us, and we'd love to have you out. I'll be, I don't know if I'm going to Springer or if I'm going back up to what's no longer called Klingman's Dome. It's been renamed to Kawohe, but I've been in the Smoky Mountain National Park the past couple of years, and what an awesome place. So,
Jeff, do you know
go ahead.
What's the next station up after Springer? I guess is it around Franklin?
No, it is Klingman's Dome in Smoky Mountain National Park, which again is no longer called Klingman's Dome. It was actually renamed to Kawohe, Kuwohi. So that renaming occurs, I think, like a week or two after the Golden Packet this past summer. So it's Springer Mountain and then Kawohe, and then after that is Bill doesn't really care to admit that he's involved with the Golden Packet every year, but he is unofficially. But he always goes to Roan Mountain, which he says is the oldest rock in the world. So Roan is the next one up, and then beyond that, Comer's Rock. Let's see how my memory is. Comer's Rock, Apple Orchard Mountain, White Rock Cliff, which is West Virginia border, and then it goes up to Maryland, and then into Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Vermont, and then there's a station in New Hampshire and 2 stations in Maine.
Seems like we always lose the one around Withville. Those guys, Withville, Virginia, those guys will show up like 2.5 hours late.
That's the one that broke it 2 years ago. Yep. Yeah, he showed up. It was weird. Like the guy Lynn that used to, we call him the shack potato, but unfortunately, Lynn passed away at the beginning of December. Major loss. Excellent friend of mine, and it was really a big shock. But Lynn, I remember that morning he said, "Wow, the guy is like right near the site, like 9 o'clock in the morning," and then all of a sudden he started like driving in the opposite direction. And then he went offline for a while, and then he was supposed to be on site ready to go by like 11 a.m. and he didn't show up until like 1:30. And It was bad.
Glenn was trying to raise them on simplex and there was somebody up there, but it was not somebody who was doing APRS. It was just somebody that was up there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, so I mean, it's like getting the sun, the earth, and the moon aligned. I mean, you've got 16 people, and I mean, I guess there are probably a couple of stations here or there that can get to the adjacent or get to further than the adjacent station, but the stations are so far apart that you really have to have your neighboring station. You know, the interesting thing about the golden packet too is the packet doesn't start at one end or the other. It actually starts in the middle, and then it goes out in either direction. So, you know, it's kind of something that I didn't realize about it at first, but, you know, ultimately what we do is as each location gets a packet, you go in and you can update the message in your radio, and you can basically list, you know, what stations you've heard. And when somebody has like all 16 stations in their message, we know that the message made it all the way up and down the trail.
Huh.
It's really cool. We say, so getting started with APRS it can be as easy as you want it to be. It can be as difficult as you want it to be. I would say don't focus on the protocol. Focus on what it is that you want to do with it. Find other hams that are using APRS, find what they're doing with APRS, and then figure out what you need to do it. Don't, you know, go focus on how it works, like the whole but you can always get to that point. But you know, find an Elmer that's like an APRS specific Elmer. There's plenty of them out there. You know, find what somebody is doing. If you're interested in weather, you're interested in search and rescue, you're interested in like the Peachtree Road Race, and you want to help out with that. Just focus on what is of interest to you, and then figure out what you need to do. Don't go the other way around. It will be a lot more frustrating if you go that direction. So. Trust me, that was kind of how I started out, and it was kind of challenging. I tell you, my experience with APRS, I'll just share with you real quick, is you know, I wanted to get into satellite work, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody at Atlanta Radio Club told me about a tape measure Yagi. So I bought a tape measure and bought some PVC, and I built one, and I connected it to my Kenwood HT and said, I'm going to try and use the APRS digipeater that's on the International Space Station. I tell you what, I opened the front door of my house. I hadn't even gone outside completely and pointed the antenna up in the air, and I was already getting packets from the International Space Station. And I'm like, this is just incredible. And so, you know, I was hooked. That was my start with APRS and my start with satellite work. So I kind of fell in love with both at the same time. You know, APRS is something you can either build or you can buy, or you can do both. But, you know, ultimately, you can get started with an inexpensive radio, a sound card, and a piece of software called Direwolf. And what is Direwolf? Direwolf is a software-based TNC, or terminal node controller. So that's really what takes the radio RF and converts it to packet or back and forth. Direwolf was written by John Langner, WP2 OSC. Interestingly enough, we had done a bunch of testing with Direwolf with the Golden Packet, which historically Golden Packet has basically been an all Kenwood event. Nobody has a better implementation of APRS in a device out of the box than Kenwood does. Mm-hmm. We found that Direwolf was actually doing a better job encoding and decoding packets than the Kenwoods were. You know, we could get messages without any sort of like corruption, without at really high data rates. And it was just amazing how a piece of software like Direwolf was just able to do such a much better job. So this APRS for $30 link, you know, will show you a relatively inexpensive way to get started with it. Or, you know, you could go out, Kenwood started shipping an APRS enabled HT again at the beginning of last year. The D75, they're a little pricey. Yaesu also has a really good APRS implementation. The biggest difference between the Kenwood and the Yaesu is that the TNC that is built into the Kenwood, they allow you to use it with software that runs on other devices. So you can connect to it with Bluetooth, you can connect to it with a cable, and you can use the TNC that's inside of the radio. Yaesu does not allow that. So you can only use it over RF, and really that's about it. You can use it with RF and connect to an iGate and get packets in and out of the internet, but you can't connect the radio to an like an iPhone or an Android device or to a laptop and use it just purely for the packet portion of it, which is, it's kind of unfortunate. We've asked Yaesu why that is, and they said that, you know, they weren't talking about it. Getting connected to the APRS IS is actually pretty easy. You don't even need to have a radio to do it, just a piece of software and a passcode and the connection to the internet. Put up some of the more popular applications. So APRS ISCE/32. That was written by Lynn. It's since been open sourced after he passed away. In December, his son took the code and open sourced it to share it with the ham radio community. So it's on GitHub. Pinpoint APRS is another excellent Windows-based application. QTH.app is an absolutely gorgeous APRS application for the Mac. And then Zaster, I think that's how it's pronounced, but Zaster is an open source APRS application that runs primarily, folks will run it on Linux, on a Raspberry Pi. You know, any of these applications can talk directly to the APRS IS. They can also be integrated with Direwolf, and then you could use it with an audio or RF device, or a combination of the two. You know, all great solutions. They're all free. Well, actually, I say that all free, but actually QTH.app, there's a small license fee for it. You know, it's a lot of work to code these applications, a lot of years of work, and so you know, sometimes these guys want a little bit of money to support them. I bought a license for QTH.app. I think it was like $20. You know, good for life. So I thought it was worthwhile. I was the president of APRS Foundation up until not too long ago, but realized my job kept me a little too busy and wanted to spend time with my family, so I'm not. But how.aprs.works is the name of the site that I picked out for the foundation. So this is kind of like the new home for APRS. It historically had been aprs.org. The foundation does control aprs.org, but I think it's primarily going to be kept the way it is for historical reasons. But how.aprs.works is the new home for APRS information, anything and everything you may want to know about it. And I think that's kind of about it.
Well, I'm sure there's gonna be some questions. Everybody just unmute and chime up.
What kind of
Either
water?
that or I answered everything.
Well, we might think of something. Hey,
I figured
what
you
kind of
had some-
wattage do you use on the golden packet?
50 watts typically, yeah. So we all operate Kenwood, either D700, 710, or 710G. Yeah, some of the stations up in the Northeast actually run HTs with Yagi antennas. So Kenwood D72, D74, D75. So that's 5 watts. They're all high
Yeah.
sites, right? So
Yeah, Lynn, we can sit on Roan Mountain. Glenn and I can sit up there with a 5-watt HT and talk to Klingman's Dome or whatever it's called now. That's probably 120 miles.
yeah,
Have you
I
ever
had
thought
a
of doing any other summits like Grandfather Mountain or some of those when you're doing the golden packet, or are they just too far off?
So I'm not sure where that one is, but you know, Bob had a list of kind of alternate locations. So he always wanted to add Stone Mountain. There is a high site in Huntsville, Alabama that he was interested in. Lookout Mountain in Chattanooga. So yes, we have interest in adding sites. The hard thing is getting people to who are I don't know, reliable, responsible self-starters to actually go out and who have the equipment and, you know, really want to be part of it, because it is a commitment.
Yeah, Grandfather Mountain would be south of Rome. It would be significantly off the trail. And the real high spot of that is the rock itself. So, I mean, it would be physically a challenge to get to the high spot and set up on Grandfather Mountain.
Okay.
Is it like hiking only, or is there a drive up?
You can drive, you can get close, but it would be hiking up to it. It's
Okay,
just a rock. It's like Stone Mountain, only rougher.
got it. Yeah, I would say,
Matter of fact, you'd have to cross the mile-high bridge to get to the real high spot. Otherwise, you're being occluded by the other mountains around it.
Yeah, the Mile High Bridge is a walking bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Grandfather Mountain is not that high, not really, compared to Roan Mountain or the new Klingman's Dome.
man, Zoom changed everything on me. I'm trying to figure out where the thing is to go. I could share my whole screen, but they seem to have gotten rid of it. Either that or my company, I'm using my company workstation right now, so it's
I'll
possible
share this
they
with
killed
the
it.
group while you're looking for that. I actually brought up the APRS FI application when you took a break a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
And
go ahead
you've
if you
got
want to share it.
different nodes out there. You got a bunch of them, but your phone is at 90% battery. It actually reports that. That surprises me.
Yeah, so aprs.fi, and then we actually had a guy who, so I can't believe I actually forgot to go over this. So I devised an event that we called the Golden Packet Knowledge Share. But we meet once a month on the second Tuesday of the month. We tend to try and get a guest speaker, but all the meetings from now until the event are all planning meetings at this point. We had a guy who came to the meeting. Let me see here. Who runs a newer site similar to aprs.fi. If you ask me, I think it's actually better and it is much faster. Called aprs.to. Let me see if I can figure out. Hang on a second here. Let me figure out which window this is. Yeah, here we go. So it was written by Steve N2RWE. So this is quite an impressive application. What's really neat is when you zoom out, it turns into like a heat map. And then when you zoom in, you can get some really great data. You can also, let's see here. He's got a way that you can easily measure the distance between sites. So if you want to get an idea of how far you are apart from another station, you can draw maps. You can track. You can look at coverage area. So some stations will actually, like for this DigiPeter, for example, let's see here. He'll actually pull up a kind of like a scatter graph to actually show you what sort of coverage the site gets. I don't know why it's taking so long to paint. But this site is pretty incredible.
What's the
guy,
URL?
aprs.to, Tango Oscar.
Tango, thank you.
Yep.
Heard something different too.
Here you go. Here's one. So this site, he has the coverage information for this particular DigiPeter. And he's sourcing all of this from the APRS IS. So all of this data that's where he's getting it from. But I absolutely love this site now. I use it more than I use aprs.fi. He's constantly adding features. He's got like a 6, 7, 8 node server cluster in his basement. I think the guy owns a data center, and so he's got a lot of hardware, evidently quite a bit of money and quite a bit of time to do software development. But you can go through here, you can find some interesting stuff like, here's somebody's vehicle. If you click on track, over time, it'll build a breadcrumb trail So like I said, you can get a lot into APRS and not even pick up an APRS enabled radio.
Yeah, this is pretty soon. You're right. It's significantly faster even on an iPhone than the old one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's much more modern code. It's, APRS.FI is pretty old school. The database on the back end is super slow. This guy who writes APRS.TO, he really knows what he's doing. Oh yeah, you can actually sometimes too. You'll actually see the repeaters here. You'll actually see that when they're transmitting or receiving packets, they'll actually build a little bit of an animation. I just saw one a moment ago. Down in Florida the other day, saw a station that was I think it was a glider. It was somebody who was flying a glider, and they were actually beaconing packets while they were up in their glider.
So how is it those airplanes are showing up? Do they have APRS on them?
So this guy grabs feeds from other locations. So if you hover over them, you'll see it's actually like an FAA call sign of some sort. But so they're picking this up over, I think it's ADSB.
Okay.
But we did find one the other day, and it hovered over it, and it was actually a ham call sign. And then we looked it up and on QRZ, and it turned out the guy is a glider pilot.
Jeff,
Yes.
have you played around with the all-in-one cable?
All-in-one cable. I'm not familiar with that.
It plugs into a Kenwood type radio, and it has a sound card built into the plug-in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I played with one from, I think it's BTEC or Baofeng. You can, as a sound card built into it, and then you can connect that to an Android device and use APRS Droid with it.
Well, normally you probably hook it up to a DigiPod.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, DigiPi is great. Definitely, if you're gonna mess around with APRS on a kind of like a build your own basis, I would say that's like the way to go, because it takes about 10 minutes to write the image to a card, and about another 5 or 10 minutes to set it up.
And you're looking at about $70 total for radio.
Yeah, he wrote it so that it would run on a Raspberry Pi Zero. He wanted to make sure that you didn't need a full-size Pi for it.
Yeah.
So that in itself is pretty impressive that you could run this thing on a postage stamp size processor.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then if you have it's like a little 1-inch OLED display. So he actually wrote oh gosh, what's it called? Dire Watch. And so it'll actually give you a nice output on an OLED display on the Raspberry Pi Zero.
You need to get into it. All right, got any other questions? Anybody out in the field? I think everybody's looking at software here in the room now on their phones.
Yeah, I say if you have an Android device, APRS Droid is the one to check out. It's probably the most mature and easiest one to work with for mobile devices. There's APRS.FI app for iOS.
Yeah, I'm fully iOS now, thanks to you.
Ah. Yeah, the one thing about iOS devices is the Bluetooth stack in iOS devices does not support what's called a serial port profile, or SPP. But there are guys that, believe it or not, actually in Hawaii, that make a USB device, USB Bluetooth device, that if you get it, you can connect a radio to your iPhone over Bluetooth, and that way you can use applications, APRS enabled apps with the Bluetooth chipset.
That's pretty cool. That
Yeah,
is.
it's a neat little device.
So the third weekend in July is the Golden Packet event this year. That's like the 18th or something, right?
Yeah, I think it's the 19th. Yeah, if you go to at goldenpacket.net, and then I actually have a little counter here. So 106 days and change remaining.
Yeah, I'm planning to hit Road Mountain again this year. If you guys have not gone to one of these things, there's a lot of standing around and watching, but there's also a lot of technical information. And where we go up on top of Road Mountain, he mentioned a minute ago, it's the oldest rock on earth. It literally, that's not a figure of speech. It is the oldest rock on earth exposed up there. But we found that by moving the antenna like 12 feet, we could either get Klingman's dome or not by moving the antenna 12 feet. So there's always some jiggling around when we get it up there, trying to move the car and move the antenna until we finally get a connection both directions. So that there are some technical challenges, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. I missed it this in 2024. I couldn't make it, but I'm certainly going to be there in 2025.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite APRS way of using APRS by far. It's challenging, and like I said, it's been a little frustrating because we get really, really close. Either we get the southern half working, the northern half working, but then we always end up having some sort of problem in the mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is we always have a post-mortem like 2 or 3 weeks after the event, and by then we've had guys that will actually go through and they churn through the logs and they can pretty much pinpoint where the breakdown occurred and why.
Yeah, I remember 2 years in a row, just to recount what was going on here, 2 years in a row, we got there one year, it might have been 2019. And it was literally so foggy that sitting in the car, I couldn't see the end of the hood on the car. It was that foggy. Wow. And we were actually feeling our way around up there to get everything set up. And then the next year, it was absolutely perfectly clear, not a cloud in the sky. And right at 1 o'clock, lightning hit the top of the hill, right where, 100 feet from us. And Glenn said, "We're off the air."
Yeah.
We couldn't get that antenna down quick enough. There wasn't a cloud in the sky though. It just came out of nowhere. So there's always fun on this thing.
Yeah, we always say that it's from 11 to 2 or 11 to 3, but we inevitably have to call it early because there's weather, 2,200 miles, there's going to be weather somewhere that's going to cause problems.
Yeah, it was just a bright flash and an immediate clap. I mean, it couldn't have hit more than 100 feet from the parking lot where we set up. It used to be an overlook. They've let it grow up now. You can't see anything. But back at the turn of the century, last century, there was a hotel up there. And the people would spend a day coming up the mountain. They spend time in the hotel and then go back down. Some people came up and spent the summers. And the hotel burnt down, I think, in 1909. So, and I've been wanting him to go actually operate from that site because it's about 40 feet higher than the parking lot. But he's got so much equipment that it needs the car to operate from. So that's kind of a limitation.
Oh, Bill, yeah, if you weren't involved this past summer, Glenn wasn't able to get to Roan this year. So this past summer, he actually went to Mount Mitchell this year or for last summer. Yeah, there was some sort of construction that was being done. And then this year with the hurricane that went through, Mount Mitchell is closed. So he's going back to Roan.
Okay. Yeah. I vaguely remember something about that he had mentioned that he didn't go to Rome, but see, I didn't go up this year. So I would have missed it anyway. So, all right.
We do as much planning as we possibly can. And then inevitably like the last 48 hours before the event is when things start going sideways. And I swear the guys just want to give me a heart attack while, get through all that planning.
Now that you've said that, they may have been cutting those trees back off of the crest up there because it used to be we used to go up there and park at night and play with the radios, and you could see Knoxville up there. You could see the lights of Knoxville. You could see probably 100 miles in every direction. But the Park Service let the trees grow up, and now you can't see further than the edge of the parking lot. So I know there was talk about going up and cutting the trees back a bit. That may be what was going on. All right, we got any more questions?
Just one last one for me.
Did you rig a Raspberry Pi hat or is it a standalone something?
The DigiRig is an audio interface, and then DigiPi is you can use a DigiRig with DigiPi. So DigiPi is actually software that runs on a Raspberry Pi, but you still need an audio interface of some sort, or radio that has a USB sound card built into it.
I've got a DigiRig that I use. I've got a couple of them. I've got one for a 718 and one for the 891. And I can tell you that the setup on it is dead easy.
Yeah,
And
they're
unlike
gorgeous.
Signal Link, you don't have cables running all over the place. You got one cable in and one cable out, basically. It's a really slick little interface.
Yeah, they make
They
make their own cables too, that you can get a cable specifically for your radio, and it's gorgeous.
I got two DigiRigs I bought in Orlando, but I thought they were just for like FT8.
No,
Nope.
You think?
You can do anything on it.
Okay,
People get them for FT8 because everybody and his brother's doing
so
it.
I can use it for this purpose. I just need a cable.
Yep.
Hey, Jeff, it's Rob.
Hey,
Hey, do they have any like the Pis? Do they have any of the Pis that have the DMR and D-Star and APRS all on the same unit?
I am not aware of, well, I take that back. So, PiStar, they did add some APRS support into it, but I'm pretty sure all it does is beacons location information into the APRS IS, but there's no RF support for APRS. The OpenSpot has better APRS support.
Oh, really? The 4? That's a good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. When I first heard about APRS, I guess I heard about it in the relationship. I guess it was like the balloons, right? The guys at Tech Fest, right? And Gwinnett County, he launched a balloon, and just with a small, inexpensive transmitter on there with APRS, his balloon might have beaconed out wherever it was, and then you could look at the map of the world and see where it was at any time. It was a cheap way of, I guess, of showing where you were.
Nice.
Yeah, and it
Well,
has it had altitude on there and speed, and it dipped below the one of them dipped below the equator for the first time. That was cool to see. But, so that seemed like some of the location services, I guess, is where I saw it first, and obviously it does a lot more than that.
I remember people used to get aggravated if you called it the automatic position reporting system.
Oh, you can call it either or, according to Bob.
Yeah, it seemed like there was some controversy over that. All right, Jeff, we're creeping up on 9 p.m. You got anything else you want to throw into what I consider to be a really good presentation?
I got nothing else. Happy to see you guys.
Question.
Sure.
You said that sometimes you'll use a Yagi, but Yagis are very directional. If you're in the middle of the chain, how would you go about that?
If you're in the middle of the chain, you're Omni, but it's the folks that are at the end of the chain that are the ones that get away with using the Yagi.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah, Jeff, you ever used the mobile link?
I have not. I wanted to buy one, and then ham radios, like prioritization. Where's the money go to next? So just kept getting deprioritized.
They work pretty good with the Android APRS droid.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. I remember that like he manufactures them in batches, and I remember there was a time when the Mobile Link 4 came out, and I tried to buy one, and they sold. It was like buying tickets for a popular concert. It was like they were gone in no time, and people were selling them for double the price on eBay. It's crazy.
I got a question that's off topic. The C-Bridge, can you do talk group rewrites?
On the C Bridge, can we do talk group rewrites? Yes. Yes. Well, I guess define talk group rewrite, like, because I can set it up to do a talk group that's on one repeater, and I can have it be a different talk group ID on a different repeater.
Mostly what I'm thinking about is something that comes in from Brandmeister as one talk group, sending it out to the repeater as a different talk.
Oh,
group.
yeah, that's easy enough to do.
Do you know who's responsible for the Atlanta talk group, the 31131?
Me?
You?
Yes.
Okay.
You got to the right person.
The reason I'm asking is there's been some discussion about using the 31131 as a Metro Atlanta multi-mode into a XLX.
Oh, multi-mode reflector, yeah. Yeah, the problem with that is that, so like, if traffic crosses over into Brandmeister on a talk group, like, let's say you do multi-mode to a C bridge, and then that C bridge bridges to Brandmeister, you know, as soon as the guys from Brandmeister catch wind of that, they'll disconnect the C bridge. They only want DMR traffic.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true because they will do fusion. They're running fusion reflectors now.
I don't know. And anytime that I've had any funny business like that, where actually one of my buddies up in Minnesota, the guy who's running K4USD, he was supporting a guy running a fusion system, and then he got his C bridge disconnected. So I don't know what happened there. Things may have changed with them, but I've been staying within the within keeping on the rail, because I've come close. I've actually gotten disconnected once before, and I said it's just not worth the risk. But I can create a talk group on the C bridge that, it wouldn't get forwarded into Brandmeister. It would only be on like the local repeaters. I can do that, no problem.
No, Brandmeister accepts XLX reflectors. You just have to put in a ticket for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, then you probably do that without the C bridge involved with it. Just connect the reflector directly to them.
Well, you still have to get the right talk group out to the repeaters and probably do a talk group rewrite.
Yeah, well, I mean, 31131 is currently be used for the Atlanta Metro talk group. So, yeah, I mean, I would want to keep it the way that it is, because historically that's just been what it has been.
Are all the 3113s taken? Is that why they want to take 31131?
Yeah, so I think 31137 or 31138 was available, and somebody took it not too long ago.
And we're running out.
Well, I mean, yeah, anybody can actually use their own radio ID number as a talk group, which a lot of people don't realize.
You can also use a repeater talk ID as a talk group too.
Yep. Now let's see here, 31131. Yeah, 38 became Georgia TAC, whatever that is, GA TAC.
Yeah, that's a lot of Aries stuff on there.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny, because there is a Georgia Aries one, which is 31130. So now evidently there's two.
Yeah, they seem to flow over into that TAC group sometimes.
Yeah, I always find it interesting to go on the there's a call statistics area on Brandmeister where you can look up like on a per talk group basis and see how much activity there is. And I mean, there's I would say most of the talk groups have very little activity on them. There are some that just have a tremendous amount of activity on them though.
Yeah, I think around here, I'm not driving as much as I was, but I was on 31131 all the time. That's what I kept linked up until even out of the area, 31131 seemed to work.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we're way off topic here. Any more APRS or golden packet related questions? If not, we'll pull the plug.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, guys. Great seeing y'all. Thank you.
Take it easy.
All right. See
Like
ya.
I say, I looked you up. Your iPhone is down to 90%, so
Ah.
plug it back on the phone.
Thanks. See you
All right.
guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
Bye now.
All right, guys, that's the end of the meeting for tonight. So we'll do it again next month, which will be, I think, May, if I've got my calendar in my head correct. So,
Yep.
If this is April, next month is not June, I don't think.
no, it's May. pretty soon. It's a holiday weekend though, or close to it. So,
The holiday weekend?
well, yeah, Memorial Day's in there somewhere.
That's the end of the month.
Is that
Rob,
good?
are you gonna come to lunch
No
tomorrow?
problem.
No.
Oh, come on.
Oh, man, he was gonna buy too.
Yeah, he was going spring.
Oh, is that you?
Well, that'll save money if I just buy but not go. I just buy it for everybody else.
All right, that's it.
Man, I hope you get better quick.
Yeah, I fell and I couldn't believe it. I went to the hospital for something else and they said, "Oh, by the way, you got 4 broken ribs."
Were you sober?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, no.
I was. I thought it was okay when I fell. And the only good thing is that my ex-girlfriend has been taking care of me all week, so that part's good.
Luck.
Well, since you're immobile and you're not driving, this is the perfect time to pick up drinking as a hobby. Feel the pain.
Well, I asked them if I'm on clear liquids only, can I have vodka? And they said no.
Oh. Or gin.
Okay.
Or some tequila.
Yeah, someone took it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, guys.
Pull the plug. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. See ya.
Good night.
Glad you can make it tonight. Thank you.
Y'all come back now,
Gonna be
you
at
hear?
lunch tomorrow, Bill?
I don't know, or ALD.
Well, come on.
ALD, okay.
They changed the
ADL
cast.
to ALD.
And this new cast is fighting really hard right here.
Glad you can
They
make it
actually
tonight.
put a piece
Yeah,
of
it was
foam
small
in there,
group tonight.
but that foam's not even, so I don't.
Yeah, I'll see you in 2 Sundays.
This is gonna be.
Yep,
This is gonna be.
Yep, yep. it'll be
If
fun.
you can make it down there.
I got there last week. It took me a long time to get across.
How many new Texans we have?
Well, that'll be the Hamfest in November.
If you
too.
wanna get let off at the door, I'll park a car.
I don't remember. I can look it up and tell
If you
you.
ever get a chance,
All
try.
right.
it. Go
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
This is a mobile aim tomorrow.
See y'all.
Orlando, obviously.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's Rob's iPhone.
That's a-
Good to see you. Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks,
Bill,
y'all.
do me a favor
Yeah.
and let me know how far of the video that you want, in the recording. You want everything up to now or everything up to?
All the way out to the end when